Hay fever is one of the most common health conditions, but what actually is hay fever? How does it affect the body? And what key herbs can help relieve some of its symptoms? Find all of that out on this video, along with other tips and tricks. If you're ready, let's go! Hay fever is also known as allergy rhinitis. Hay fever causes an inflammation and irritation in the linings of the nasal passage, throat, and eyes. Some of the symptoms of hay fever can be cold-like, and that includes runny nose, itchy eyes, congestion, sneezing, and some sinus pressure. Fun fact, although there isn't anything fun about hay fever, where the name comes from is kind of interesting. At one point, the medical community didn't fully understand the cause of hay fever, and because the symptoms would strike during the fall hay harvest when pollen in the air is a bit higher, this condition was thus named hay fever. But actual allergy to hay is far less common. People with hay fever tend to be allergic to the pollen of grasses, trees, and weeds. So, to create some context for you guys, let's go over the process of what happens in the body to create the hay fever reaction. Simply put, hay fever is a reaction to pollen, and pollen is a fine, powdery, microscopic grain released from plants. This release of pollen usually peaks between March and September, so some people may have it worse during these times. The process of hay fever starts when pollen is actually breathed in. The body's immune system starts to overreact, thinking it's a harmful substance, and thus produces an antibody called immunoglobulin E to help fight this perceived threat. So the pollen is the allergen. The IgE thus binds to this allergen and stimulates the release of certain chemicals, and in particular histamine, to flush the pollen out of their airways. And it's this histamine that's causing the inflammation and all the unpleasant symptoms. And that's why a lot of hay fever drugs are antihistamine drugs, as they reduce the body's production of histamine. If you guys are with me so far, make sure you drop a like, drop a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. So, hay fever is the body's response to an assumed threat. To help the body not overreact, we need to try and reduce the body's sensitivity. So, here are 4 quick things you can do right now to help reduce the body's sensitivity. As a hay fever sufferer, you may find that some days or even some years your hay fever is worse. Yes, pollen count can change, but also can your lifestyle. Experts say it's possible to reduce the tendency of the body to produce histamine by adding foods rich in calcium, magnesium, and flavonoids to your diet. But what I find interesting is some people don't know that there's foods that actually contain histamine, and research shows that foods containing a high level of histamine can actually intensify hay fever symptoms. Some of these foods rich in histamine include chocolate, yogurt, soy sauce, vinegar, tomatoes, aubergines, and other foods such as cured meats and canned fish. Also, some other foods such as chickpeas and soybeans have some amounts of histamines. To be fair guys, the list is quite extensive, and it's not a case of just cutting out everything. I'm bringing you this information just so you know of what to eat more of or what to eat less of, and to see if there's anything you're over consuming and if it's potentially having an effect on you now. So being mindful eating with this information can help reduce your sensitivities, especially during peak seasons. Another quick pro tip is to get an intolerancy test done. Some food intolerancies may affect your allergies, especially its severity, due to the impact of intolerancies on the gut. The second quick tip to help you reduce your sensitivity is adding antihistamine foods to your diet. Some of these foods to include in your diet include pineapples. Pineapples are a good source of bromelain, and some early research might suggest that bromelain can help reduce your sensitivity. Other foods to add can be watercress, ginger, apples, pomegranate, but more importantly is listening to your body. Some days it's going to be worse, some days it's going to be better, but in between that time, what changes? Are you sleeping more? Are you eating certain foods? And that's why for some people, keeping a food diary is essential. If you eat something on Monday, does it change how your body reacts on Tuesday? Is it better or worse? A food diary for some might be key, and that way you can know what from the food list to cut out and what to keep in. Okay guys, tip number 3 is an important one, and that is reducing stress. Research suggests that high levels of stress tends to worsen your hay fever symptoms, and one study showed the link between stress and severity of hay fever symptoms. In the survey, almost 7 out of 10 stressed out hay fever sufferers rated their symptoms as unbearable or debilitating. As the stress levels drop, the symptoms show to be a bit more milder. So this is something you really want to bear in mind. A lot of us don't actually know the signs of stress, or we pass these symptoms up to lack of sleep or feeling tired. If you find yourself being cranky, quick to anger, or you're having trouble sleeping or even concentrating, these could be symptoms of stress. So work on your stress and help your hay fever. Relax. Quick tip number 4 is to exercise more. The same survey that linked stress to hay fever symptoms also showed a link between those who exercise the most and mild hay fever symptoms. So this shows that exercise is crucial to helping reduce your symptoms. Get active, get fit. So guys, these are 4 quick things you can do right now. Other things can be maybe adding a supplement to your diet, a good multivitamin supplement to start. And the reason for this is because nutrients like vitamin D may be harder to get, as some people choose not to go outside during the summer. And vitamin D has a direct effect on your immune system. Other things to look into that have been shown to affect hay fever is probiotics and live cultures. And the reason I wanted to make this video is because I was speaking to a friend and I realized they don't actually understand what's causing their hay fever symptoms or what's going on inside the body. And I've been speaking on things like hay fever for quite a while. I remember a thread I did in about 2013 or 2012 that helped people with their hay fever symptoms. So I've been touching on this for a while. Even though I personally don't suffer from hay fever, I really hope this video is going to be beneficial for you. So if you're new here, make sure you subscribe, make sure you stick around. A lot more good content is coming. So without further ado, let's get into the herbs. Well, the first herb is technically not an herb, but it's prescribed by many herbalists. This first herb is called MSM. MSM is a sulfur-containing compound found naturally in plants, animals, and humans. As you know, itis at the end of a disease literally means inflammation of. So bronchitis is inflammation of the bronchi. MSM is said to help with many inflammatory issues like arthritis, and it's also said to be very beneficial for allergy sufferers. And there are a few studies to confirm these potential benefits. One study found that MSM provides significant relief from hay fever symptoms and objective nasal obstruction without any side effects. This is pretty interesting, and even at low doses of between 1 and 5 grams per day, there was an increase of up to 50% in symptoms. That's just 1 teaspoon per day. In another study where each person was given 1.3 grams of MSM twice daily for 30 days, they showed a significant reduction in symptoms. So MSM is definitely worth looking into further. I've also had some personal experience with it too. As always guys, all my research links are in the description if you want to read a little bit more. The second herb is a bit of a basic one, but it's still worth adding it to your diet. The second herb is turmeric. One of the active compounds in turmeric is called curcumin. It's a natural anti-inflammatory agent and it has a whole heap of benefits. One study found that out of the 241 patients who suffered from hay fever, those who were actually given curcumin for 2 months had elevated symptoms. This is a really good sign. They also noticed other inflammatory markers were reduced. So start adding turmeric to your diet. You can add it to your herbal teas and other things, but absorption might be an issue. So to aid absorption from the turmeric, you can heat it, you can add some fats to it like coconut oil for example, or you can pair it with some black pepper. The third herb for helping reduce your hay fever symptoms is stinging nettle. Stinging nettle is said to be very beneficial for hay fever, and it's actually one of my favorite herbs. Some research has linked stinging nettle leaf to relief from hay fever symptoms such as sneezing, running nose, and itchy eyes. The reason for this is because it's thought that stinging nettle has a direct impact on reducing histamine within the body and thus potentially reducing its symptoms. Also, nettle is full of iron, vitamin C, and calcium too. These can all be very beneficial. As you may or may not know, vitamin C is definitely beneficial for hay fever sufferers. There are some early studies that show stinging nettle's benefits on hay fever too. One study showed that stinging nettle helped reduce the sneezing and itching in people suffering from hay fever. Another study showed that 57% of patients rated nettle as effective in relieving allergies. But what I actually find interesting is out of that, 48% said that nettles were more effective than the allergy medication they were previously consuming. So that is something to bear in mind. In general, this herb is very, very powerful, and to be fair, it really deserves its own video, a benefits of stinging nettle video. And if that's something you want to see, Comment below, let me know in the comments, and that will get done for you. The fourth herb to help relieve hay fever is a herb called Eyebright. Eyebright is a herb that's been used in traditional medicine in Europe for centuries, mainly to deal with issues concerning the eye. It's said to help restore eye health, but it's also said to be very beneficial for hay fever. And the reason for this is that Eyebright may help inhibit mast cells which release histamine. And histamine, as we spoke about before, is what leads to a lot of the nasty symptoms that a lot of hay fever sufferers get. Human studies on Eyebright and hay fever are lacking, but online there are a lot of testimonials of people who've used Eyebright to help alleviate their hay fever symptoms. So it's something you might want to look into further. There are other herbs said to be beneficial for hay fever too. Some of these herbs include astragalus, echinacea, holy basil and elderflower. So drop a like or comment if you want me to do a part 2. Hay fever just ruins summer for some people. But with these tips and a greater understanding of what's going on internally, it's possible to help reduce your symptoms. This was further validated recently as a group of us, well, over 50 of us, participated in my Fast with Dungal challenge. In this Fast with Dungal challenge, we fasted for 39 hours using herbs. And some of the herbs we fasted with are what I mentioned in this video. So it's a challenge we do every month. If you want to get involved, go follow me. But some of the feedback from the challenge is some people said that their hay fever symptoms had reduced. Some of you guys may be asking yourself, do you use these herbs individually or do you use them all together? Well, in terms of dose, I've already spoken about MSM and that dose, about a teaspoon a day to start. But for the other herbs, it's good to start using them one by one, seeing how you react. And when you start using it one by one, you want to use about a teaspoon. So you're starting off small, and if you react well, then you can go around combining herbs. Don't worry guys, my herb combining video is coming out next, so make sure you subscribe. Another thing you can add to your teas is lemon or lime. Lemon or lime tend to be high in vitamin C, and this is a natural antihistamine. So you can add the lemon or lime when you're making your herbal teas. So guys, to summarize, sleep, exercise, diet, stress play a big role in hay fever. Lifestyle is very important, but MSM, turmeric, stinging nettle and Eyebright have been shown to have a positive effect too. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to learn more about herbs, click on my face and get my herb guide. And before you go, check out these 2 amazing videos right here and right here. It's your brother Paulo Tote, certified herbalist and nutritionist. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.